Um, okay, so moving on to the third age you identified in your
Okay.
book. This was the age of control. I know we barely touched on industrialization, which
I thought we did a
I
good job.
oh good, because
Yeah,
I have this terrible habit when I read a book like yours. You tell a story about Andrew Carnegie and Cornelius Vanderbilt, and I think, oh, I want to read a book about them, and so then I go order books, and so my stack of books I want to read goes on forever,
sure.
and I wish we could spend more time covering that. But okay,
Of course.
uh, Age of Control, 1932 to 1980. This is, as I say, the time around the Great Depression through the end of Jimmy Carter's one and only term. I think maybe a place to start is with the New Deal, which I will admit I had a misunderstanding of. I kind of, in my cursory knowledge of the period, thought FDR and his administration puts out these policies that put America back to work. The country climbs out of the Great Depression. I think that's kind of the fifth grade
Hmm.
version of learning about the Great Depression, which is what I unfortunately had maintained until this day. Reading your book, you made clear no war material and the production of getting ready to enter World War II. That was the thing that really, more than anything else, drew us out of the Great Depression. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, the fifth grade account is not completely wrong, although, as you suggest, it's incomplete. I mean, the Great Depression is still to this day, thankfully, represents a unique and uniquely catastrophic failure of a capitalist economy. And by the time FDR was elected in 1932, I think it was very clear to a large percentage of the American population that the economy wasn't going to lift itself out of the Depression, and that government had to play some role in lifting the economy out of the reaches where it found itself. And FDR, one of the first things he did was to take the economy off the gold standard. That made the reflation of prices and the reflation of economic production possible. And so I see the New Deal as creating mechanisms that certainly were, I think, well equipped to end the Depression and to lift the economy out of the Depression. Uh, Government control over monetary policy is one such method, with vis-a-vis ending the gold standard. Also, income politics, another such methods. New changes in taxation, changes in welfare support, welfare support, whether emergency relief or welfare provisions that became institutionalized and permanent in 1935. One could think of the Social Security Act in 1935, or also the Wagner Act, which finally legally legitimated collective bargaining as being, again, mechanisms that certainly pointed in the direction of economic recovery and helped economic recovery. With that said, the real cause, if there was one cause of the Great Depression, it was a very complicated event. It was the collapse of investment, the collapse of private investment. And there, the New Deal, it does some things on the margin. It has some public investment programs and things like infrastructure. We could think of, dam building in the West, things like that. Other things the New Deal did there as well. The Reconstruction Finance Corporation on the side of finance kind of helped inject public capital in the economy. But there, it just wasn't enough. Literally the volume and quantity of public investment wasn't enough to lift up the private economy. And so you're right. One has to get to World War II and the ramp up of federal spending and investment in war material. And that finally does the trick of licking the Depression and licking the problem of mass unemployment. You have to really get into the war before that was the case.
Thanks for watching this video clip of the Speak Good podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, please check out our full conversations on your favorite podcast directory. We've spoken with everyone from the Secretary of the Smithsonian Institution about what it was like to be the founding director of the National Museum of African American History and Culture, to a member of Congress who describes his day job as being in the wrestling ring, to an expert storyteller who helps us understand how we can use stories to help us achieve our business goals. Thanks for watching.